Hey friends, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be talking about one of the biggest challenges with Agile today, and that is what I call selective application. That is, we apply Agile in convenient or known areas of the project lifecycle. And once you understand this, really understand where the problem is, you will have taken the first big step towards drastically reducing your time to market and your ability to compete. That big first step, that's what we are going to help you to take today in this video. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's take a step back. We have this amazing idea, or we have this need that we need to actually solve. So you got this idea, sorry, that's my idea of a light bulb. Okay, we've got this idea. We then need to launch this in some way, and then obviously we need to deliver this. So when we think about Agile, we're typically thinking about this stage, the delivery. We want to make sure that we have got a incremental way of delivering. We want to have feedback loops integrated into all of these things. And that's a lot of the stuff that you'll see on this channel is around focusing on the delivery aspect of it. But what happens before delivery? Before we've selected our business partner, before we've procured the complex machinery that's needed. If, for example, we're looking to install a plant or to build a refinery or to even install a large complex software solution like an ERP solution or something like that. How does that actually occur? And that's what we're calling over here is the project launch area. Here's the problem. If we're setting up any type of complex project, whether it's building a refinery or drilling a well or installing an ERP system or any type of big project, we typically have a very long lead time to procure these items. And in many cases, it's in excess of 6 months. And in some cases, I've actually seen even years. But here's the problem. We focus so much on the delivery side of things and making sure that we're agile and we're tinkering to try and squeeze those last percentage points out, when actually the major cause or a major cause of delay and inefficiency is in the stage that actually occurs before, in the procurement stage, or you might call it the launch stage. Here's the other problem. Most of the projects of any real complexity have an essential and a complex procurement aspect to them. So any delay over here in your overall procurement process reverberates across your organization, because almost all of your complex projects are going to have this as a key aspect of those projects. Now, here's the problem with that, because one of the key differentiators and one of the key competitive advantages we have is time to market. The market doesn't care where the delay is. The market doesn't care whether it's in the ideation stage, whether it's in the procurement or the launch stage, or whether it's in the delivery stage. Delay is delay. And getting to market first, that is one of the most important things. If we look at a classic example of Apple, Apple continues to dominate the smartphone market, even though they were very late entrants into the mobile market, into the mobile phone market space. In any case, they only joined in 2007, and there were many, many other companies at that point in this space. If you look on your screen, you'll see that Apple has captured 44% of the global smartphone revenue. That's an incredible amount for one company to capture. It gets worse than that. The average selling price of an Apple phone is $825. And the number 2 player in the space, Samsung, their average selling price is $263. Can you imagine the difference in terms of the profitability per handset over there as well? So if you buy what I'm saying, that time to market is one of the most important competitive advantages, and a lot of the time being taken in in a lot of our projects is due to the procurement process. The question you might have is, that's great, but what are we going to do about it? Well, to answer that question, I want to look at first, swing back and have a look at what does the classic procurement model actually look like? And then we're going to walk you through what is the solution to that problem in the Lean Agile Procurement model. So let's have a look now first at what the classic procurement model actually looks like. So as I said, the first thing we start off with is we have an idea. We have an idea, what's the need, what's the problem we're trying to solve. Obviously, we have some kind of vision or something that we're trying to bring into the world. Now, at this stage, it might be quite vague, but we have some sort of idea of what it is we're trying to achieve. Next stage, what we're looking at is we want to get a little bit more detail on that. So this is where we put together our business case. Now, the business case may be in the form, in any form really, but it may be in the form of typically in a business model canvas where we outline what our key value proposals are, what the key activities are, our partners, our channels, the revenue streams, all of that. Or if we're using Scaled Agile, it could be a lean business case template. Links to both of those are in the description below. But regardless, at this stage is to clarify what is the business case, just to make sure it's even a good idea. Let's assume that it's a great idea. We think it's really good. The next step that we're looking to do is we are looking to clarify what potential options for good solutions are out there. And we might do that from a list of different suppliers as well. So this is where we are trying to identify, and we're trying to reach out to different suppliers. Sometimes it's called an RFI, which is a request for information. Here you're testing the field, seeing what's the latest understanding, what's the latest kind of solutions are out there, and who are the kind of suppliers that are playing in this space. Okay, so that's number 3. Once we've done that, we might get some initial information on the different supplies, get some ideas in terms of what it is we want to do, and then we might obtain proposals, okay? So these are the solutions that we might have from the different suppliers. So imagine we've shortlisted 3 suppliers, and we go and we ask them for proposals. Now, this is where they'd give their detailed proposal, they'd come up with their solution, and they'd actually give us some ideas in terms of how they want to do that. Now, once you've done that, you would then select what you felt was the best solution, and you'd also either as part of that or separately identify who the best vendor is. Now, here's the problem with this. If you think about the way in which we're doing this, this is a highly sequential process. And it's assuming that we are going to have all of the information that we need to progress this. There's very little feedback loops. For example, if I go out and I get different proposals from the different suppliers, I've got supplier A, B, and C. I like one part of the solution from supplier A, another part from supplier B. I now then need to go out to each of those suppliers separately and then guide them maybe towards what is it I'm actually looking for. That can add weeks or even months onto the process. Why? Because we're doing it disparately, we're doing it sequentially. There's a long lead time for all of these different aspects. So now we've got a problem on our hands. Why? Because we're working in an agile world that requires results immediately, and before we've even started, we've blown months and months and months trying to just determine what's the overall right solution, who are the right vendors, and how are we going to do all of this stuff. It's the equivalent of using a horse and buggy when we've got cars, and that's not good enough. So, what is the solution? Well, fortunately, there is a solution out there, and it's a model that's been founded and popularized by Mirko Kleiner. And in essence, what it does is it brings together all of the known agile ideas like transparency and openness and feedback loops, and brings these all together so that we can actually start to take what would normally take months and collapse that down into days and even weeks. And so once we have that, we have an opportunity to bring our overall timeline down massively, start to benefit from that time to market ability. So let's have a look and see how we actually do that. So the first thing we have, if we look over here, is we have got 4 different aspects to the Lean Agile Procurement model. So let's start from that. So the first one is what we call initiation or initiate, okay? And so what we're doing over here is we're trying to understand the goal, the idea, not very different from that, but this is now using a lot of the agile techniques. So we're going to set up a cross-functional evaluation team. It's going to include the business, it's going to include the customers, it's going to include the people that would actually be involved and really understand what's actually required and involved. And we would use a Scrum as an operating model and apply many of the same steps that procurement goes through. So we're still compliant, but we're doing this now in a more iterative and a more visible way, bringing together all of the main stakeholders and even the vendors, and as soon as we possibly can. So that's the initiate stage. Once we've done that, what we want to do is we want to shift over to what's called the preparation stage. Now this is where things start to get different, because what we are doing here is we're not just shortlisting a group of vendors, because that's what we would normally be doing anyway. But what we are trying to do is we're bringing around a paradigm shift, right? Which I'll be talking about in just a second. Just like we do PI planning, right? Where we identify our goals, we understand the problem that we're trying to achieve in the next 8 to 12 weeks, and we ask ourselves, who do we need to help to achieve this outcome? In a similar way, we are asking similar questions here. We're asking, what is our need? What is our vision? What we're trying to achieve over here? Who are the key players over here? Who do we think are likely to be who those are going to be? Let's bring them all together and let's work in a collaborative way to actually come up with a solution rather than spread that over months as we would normally do in a standard classic procurement model. We're going to now bring them together so we can have a very tight learning loop, right? And we can bring them together in what's we'll call, rather than a PI planning event, we call this a big room event. It's effectively the same thing, only here you've got all your vendors as well, your short list of vendors over here in the room. So over here, much like PI planning, you can see my other videos on that and my series on PI planning as well. If you click on the link, I'll have it put over here or below. You can have a look and see how we do PI planning in more detail over there. But essentially what we're doing is we're preparing for this big room event where we are bringing all of the vendors together, and we're really going to be thrashing out things like, what does the solution look like? What's the optimal solution? And we're going to be evaluating the vendors as well to be seeing who is optimal as well. So a lot of preparation going on over there. Now remember, this timeline is like I was saying, whereas this typically is taking plus 6 months, over here we're looking to bring all of these 4 stages in between 1 to 4 weeks, right? So it's massively compressed, okay? It's a massively compressed timeline, which brings us in and aligns us with the philosophy of Agile, where we're trying to get things quickly and get that outcome. Okay, then we have the big event, the big room event over here. That's where we have the execution, okay? And this is where we bring all of the participants together, all of the people that are needed to achieve our procurement outcomes. And we have, because we have all of those participants there, we've got powerful collaboration over there. But remember now, there will also be competitors in the room, okay? So what we have to do is, we're just unlike when we're in a PI planning, typically at that point, people are going to be, there's going to be in less competitive mode and more collaborative mode. Now here, we've actually got competitors, and they could be, or probably would be, competing for the same job or partnering for aspects of that same job. Okay, so there's a highly competitive nature to this as opposed to PI planning. Now, that means the design of this event needs to factor that in. They're gonna need to be breakout areas where you can have that confidential commercial discussions that vendors are not gonna wanna share with their competitors. You're gonna have to have breakout areas and confidential spaces so that where there's particular places of IP where they're not gonna wanna share that with those competitors, you're able to accommodate all of that. But equally, or even more importantly, you're going to want to make sure that you've got those areas where everybody comes together and you can co-create. And you can co-create the solutions, and you can pick up ideas and concepts from one another, and you can have iteration sessions going on. So typically this is about a 2-day session, not dissimilar to a PI planning event. You've factored in aspects of design, and you've got the roadmaps coming through there, and you even have potential for agile contracts coming out off the back of this as well. Okay, so now we've got this powerful session where we've got the vendors working together, they collaborating together, but you can also see how they are performing in terms of the way they communicate with one another, and also in the way in which the solutions that they are coming up with as well. Now, the output is what's called a Lean Procurement Canvas, and that is one of the key outputs. But the most important thing is to start off the agreement and to formulate the kind of concepts and the ideas in terms of who we would want to have as a partner, or indeed we might have multiple of those vendors working together as well. Now, one thing then, once we've done that, we've got a good idea of what we've got a good idea of the solution because we've co-created this together. And remember, as a customer, we may not have a lot of the expertise needed to come up with the optimal solution, but now you've got 3 or 4 of the top vendors that you think are experts in this area, and you're bringing them all together in one place. The chances of you having a really powerful solution is going to happen, right? And probably better than any one vendor on their own would be able to come up with. So now you've got yourself in just 2 days into a massively powerful position, okay? But you still need to make that decision now. The outputs from the big room planning event, they help you to make that decision. You take the vendor behavior into consideration. You look at their performance. You look at the way in which they were able to collaborate with one another. You look at the cultural aspects of things, how they treated one another, and you see what makes a good fit in terms of your vendor as well as your solution. Now, one of the reasons I'm really passionate about this area is because of 2 reasons. One, I believe that in the agile industry at the moment, this is something that's pretty much forgotten about, not really talked that much about. And so I think it's a massive opportunity for those companies that are brave enough and have the vision to be able to grab this opportunity and actually go with it. So that's one reason. The other reason that I'm really passionate about this area is because if you get it wrong, the penalty is very high. What I mean by that is if your procurement process is weak, then the impact of that reverberates across practically every project and every program across your organization. So get this right, exponential benefits. Get this wrong, exponential downside. So I hope you found this video useful. If so, please consider subscribing to this channel. I'm going to be putting up a lot more videos on the procurement side of things, on PI planning. That stuff's going to continue, and also launching Agile Release Train. Till I see you next time, love learning, keep growing, and don't forget to bring the joy. See you soon and take care. God bless.